So for tonight, our demonstrator is Rick Rich from Vancouver, recently retired from public service and from AAW Symposium as well, turning a beautiful stool for us tonight. So if you want. Thank you, Rich. Good. Okay, so there's no mic, so I'll try to project. If you can't hear me, let me know. I'm going to turn this. It's a small stool for children, and my wife likes it for the grandkids, right? And her friends like it too. So I made a whole bunch, and we give them away to my wife's friends, and they like it. So I've been making them. And I play with the leg design. This is a real simple design. I stole it from a shaker chair. It was the only design on the spindle. And I liked it because it requires me to use spindle tools. And so that's what I'm going to change tonight. I'm going to turn the whole thing from lengths. Do I want to pass this around? Here you go. So I don't spend a lot of time. That's got boiled linseed oil on it, and then some wax. That's it. It's for a kid. You know, they're going to trash it. So, and you can whip out another one. So how to make it? I use through tenons because I make booster chairs. So the tenons go all the way through and they're wedged from the top. Tonight, the one that I make, I'm just going to tap the wedges in. And that way, whoever wants it or gets it, you can just take it apart, put it back on the lathe, sand it all nice, and do whatever you want. I did sand. If I'm going to give them away, I do hit it with a little bit of sandpaper. And anyway, so here's how to lay out the seat. So it starts with the round. This is 10 inches round and 1.25 inches thick. It's a piece of poplar from a poplar board. So to lay it out, these are, the circle is going to be 7 inches. So I'm going to set my calipers at 3.5 for a 10-inch. And what I do first is I just draw a circle. And then I decide where one of my legs will be. And usually I just look at the grain and I go, that's kind of the top of the grain. Can y'all see that? Okay. So that's leg hole number 1. This is the bottom of the stool right here. So to get leg hole number 2, it's pretty simple. I just draw a straight line and I come off of this one. And there's legs 2 and 3. So pretty easy. And then I'm going to draw sight lines because I have to drill these legs out at an angle. That angle is 15 degrees. So all you got to do is from the leg hole to the center and then all the way through. And now it is divided into a pie. And I've circled these because I know that they're my leg holes. So I'm going to number them here. That'll be helpful later. So 1, 2, and 3. Yep. So basic geometry. Just draw a 7-inch circle. So 3.5 on the calipers. Draw it around. Find one point. And then the others are that simple. So I use 15 degrees just because it's a pleasant angle. And it's not too standoffish and it doesn't go too wide. If it gets too wide, you start losing strength. So my story stick, can you see that? Probably not. There's a lot of glare. So
There, yeah, show it again. Go ahead and put that.
that's my story stick. You'll notice I put 15-degree angle marks on there. Got it? All right. So I take my sliding bevel. I go to my 15 degrees. And I set it. Then I need to now drill these holes, which is easy to do, because I got my helper over there who's going to help me sight. So there's two different ways, or two different things I have to do. I have to look down and sight my drill along this line here. Otherwise, my leg will be wonky this way or this way. And then I have to do it at 15 degrees going into the wood. So it helps to have a helper. Never runs out of battery. It's 3/4 inch bit. So what he's going to do is he's going to make sure that my bit is aligned with the sliding bevel. I'm going to make sure that my bit is aligned with my sight line. And he's going to say away if I need to push it away. He's going to say you if I need to pull it towards me. So easy communication. I'm going to try to make his life easy.
Go back, pull it away.
Okay. And then once we get on the same page, it goes pretty easy. Good? All right, so my job is just to keep it.
You,
And these things, they drill pretty quick. And it's not hypercritical that I be super dead on. It's just kind of. Never set that on your lathe because it falls off. So I thought about, do I really want to drill these? And I timed it. It takes me about 5 minutes, taking my time.
perfect.
There it is. And you start getting used to it. And it's a little bit slower than using a cordless drill, but I find that I'm more consistent. Probably a garage sale. It's a Lakeside. It's cheap, but it's good. I probably paid $10 for it. Worth every penny. The bit itself, those are a little harder to come by if you want a good sharp bit. Then you got to learn how to sharpen it. It just takes a little file. And if you do it right, and it's really sharp. If you do it wrong, it gets dull real quick. All right, she's slipping a little bit. Good? All right. I'm following this thing a little bit because I didn't cinch it down far enough. All right. So you notice that there's a whole bunch of tear out at the bottom. Thank you to all right, so now I need to drill up the center because I'm going to mount this thing in my chuck on a screw. So this one, there we go. That's my straight edge. I'm going to go right down the center. This is 3/8, and it fits the one-way screw. And I've got this, I've got a black mark that I put on my auger bit that's 3/4 down. So I'm just following this, just keeping somewhat in line. Don't want to go too deep. If I go too deep, then I'll go through and there'll be a hole in the top. That wouldn't be good. All right. So. The tear out here is going to be turned away. That's what I don't care about. So then I look at it and I'm looking, if I look at the center, I can see that I pretty much hit all my lines. You'll see if you're way off. When you look at it from the center, you can look at and see kind of the shadow lines, and you'll see if you're way off. As long as you're reasonably close, the kid ain't gonna notice. The mom might. All right. So one thing that I did early on, when I go into the shop, I always practice. So I'm going to turn a top, warm up, loosen up. Kevin's going to give you some music, get me pumped up. If we couldn't find any, she stopped drumming. So I need to warm up. I'm going to use my Skew. This thing is set at 2845. All right, so I'm just going to make a top to kind of smooth myself out and relax. I'm going to start with some peel cuts. And who is saying my sun is going to be in my eyes? Is that you, Karen? You're right. That's okay. It helps me see. So I'm just going to make some V cuts here, give it an artistic little detail. Heel cut. Heel cut the waist. Come in. Now I can do chatter if I want by pushing hard against it. That'll give me some chatter. Let me clean up just below the chatter. There we go. Now I'm going to plane cut down and then come back this way. Heel cut. This is a skew exercise. If you do this every day, you'll get very comfortable with this tool. See if it works. It does. All right, so I feel a little bit warmed up now. I can get on with turning the seat. First thing I turn is the seat. And to do that, I'm going to need my screw. Now I've got a spacer on there because I don't need the entire length of that screw. That's going to be plenty. And I just screw it on. And I like to snug it to where it's tight. And that's about it. If you keep ripping on that thing, it'll just strip your threads out. So always bring up the tailstock. And I'll turn away that little dimple, so I'm not worried about it. What I want is just to be able to trim up this edge first. So my tool rest is set slightly lower than center, I think. I'm going to make a bowl gouge cut this way. If I don't get all my bandsaw marks off, I'll come back this way. I'm going to turn it down. Okay, we'll try 1425. Give it a shot. So you can't really see on the camera, but I'm pointing the ground portion of my bevel in the direction that I want to cut. And then I can turn my flute up. And I just want to look at the quality of the cut. A little bit left of a bandsaw mark. I'll come this way. I'm going to go all the way through my cut. Even though I know it's going to feel a little tear off right there, because it doesn't matter. That's all going to be waste anyway. All right. So I look at my end grain and I say, yeah, that's pretty clean. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut a chamfer. Here, here. So you see the line, 1/4 inch. And then my, I'm going to go 1 1/4 inches at the fattest part. And then, so I'm going to have, this is going to come all the way down to there, but first I'm going to clean up to there and cut this right about there to there. So those two lines will meet. And that's as simple as pointing my bevel in the direction I want to cut. Moving my tool rest so I can get a better cut. Because Kevin's going to be looking at this and throw his tip. And they're going to tell me if it isn't perfect. All right. So now, this out of the way. If you have questions, let me know. I'm supposed to repeat your question. I watch my own video. I don't repeat questions very well. So I will try. All right, so we move this up. What I like the center. We have the center of my flute. We're going to give this a try. So, what I want to do is right there. We're going to go down to it. All right, so now you can go this way. Because I want my seat to be slightly rounded on top so the kid sits there, it doesn't press up into the kid's leg. It makes it more comfortable. Popping cuts. Now I'm going to go from here to there, and I'm going to try to make it nice and smooth. Find the way.
Sure, okay.
I'm watching on that far side where my cut is. When I'm getting that, I'm going to gather my cut. Take a look. Right. Not bad. Yeah, we'll call that good. You could definitely use a little bit of sandpaper, but never sand in a demo. So hit Cook over that. Yeah. Hit Cook hooked me up with Powermatic. So I'm a very happy camper. All right, so I turned away all my all that tear out. The seat now done. I'll take it off. I will, I'm gonna keep it up just for a second, because now I have to turn a button. Something to hide that unsightly hole. So just happen to have a piece of ash, the same as the legs. This is poplar. Did I tell everybody that? Yeah, it's poplar. The legs are ash. And this is a piece of that same ash. We'll turn it around here. This side's bigger. And then I just sight down, looking at the ways to get it somewhat straight. Because this is very similar to turning a top. But the bottom of my top is going to fit right into there. And it should be a snug fit. So I'm going to show you two different ways that I use to measure diameters while turning. This one involves the use of calipers that the ends are rounded. So I'm going to use it while I'm turning. Very easy. If you don't round the ends of them, it's very easy to have them fling. So just hit them up with the grinder. That's all I did. And I know it's 3/8. So I set my calipers to 3/8. But first, I need to turn it round. Found tools like to vibrate off the bed, so I like to take them off. There we go. Turn the speed up a little bit. So 2800. That's really all I need. I'm going to smooth it. Give it one of these. Clean it. Get artsy. And then this is where, that's how big the button will be. And I can, just make it look nice. My 1/8 parting tool and my calipers. I'm just going to. Then when I get close to it, I just let them slide right over. Now I know that's 3/8, so now I can cut inward. The reason I cut inward is so it sits flat on there. And then this little part here is kind of raised up, so it'll just sit right over that. And I want it roughly 1/2 inch long. Right about there. If it doesn't fit, I got plenty of room. All right, good luck getting it off. So the seat and the button are done. So now I need to turn the legs. And when I turn the legs, I've got two measurements that matter. As long as this square, which is between 1.25 and 1 3/8 on my bandsaw, I just turn it round. So I know it's in the ballpark. Bottom is 7/8. The tenon is 3/4 at the top. And then I will take the seat and measure, and I'll number each one. Number 1, it'll go in number 1 hole. And I'll just go down through all 3 holes to make sure each tenon fits. So it's custom fit in case one of those mortises was a little bit inked. So like if I if I got told, oh, a little towards you, then that mortise is actually a little bit bent. So that's why I custom fit, it's just easier. So now, I'm done with my chuck. I can get rid of this. Take apparently this whole thing off. All right. There we go. This is a very heavy lathe. I'll give you that. The speed thing is a little unique. I'm not used to that. It's kind of you can dial it right down to 5 RPMs, which is pretty impressive. Okay. All right. So now it's turning between centers, which is what I'm most comfortable with. I enjoy spindle turning. I think everyone should learn spindle turning first. It makes everything easier. So these are 1 foot tall, which makes the stool itself sit roughly 11 3/4, which is a perfect height for about a 3 to 5 year old. And once they get older than that, they don't get free stools anymore. They can, and they want to sit at the big boy chair anyway. All right. So I like to set my tool rest just above center because I'm turning at, if you look at a clock of this from the tailstock, I'm going to be turning at roughly 10 to 11 o'clock. So if I have my tool rest slightly above center, it makes that very easy. Spindle rough and gouge, because I'm going to rough out a spindle. I'm at 28.25 still. So anchor, and to cut, all I got to do is raise my handle and then point it in the direction that I want it to go. Spindle rough and gouge is nice because you can go back and forth. So that seems to be round. Not pretty, but it doesn't need to be right now. So I'm going to move this over to here and turn this round. No questions, Steve? You don't wonder what I'm doing? So here I know this is going to be my tenon, this is going to be my foot, so I can already start and just start working it down a little bit and getting rid of some of that waste. All right, so here's the other method. I found these at a garage sale. This is 7/8. Because remember, the bottom of my foot is 7/8. There's $1 for 3 of them. You couldn't mess it up. So I just ground it down some so it wouldn't hit my tool. When it was long, I did this when it was long, and every now and then I'd hit the blade of my skew. And so I just ground it down. Remember, it's 33 cents. Yeah. So I'm going to take the straight portion of my skew and just go like that. That's 7/8. So now, imagine that, 3/4. I can do the same thing here. Can y'all see? Okay. I'm gonna do the same thing. I want my tenon to be 3/4, which is okay, because this is 5/8. And then realize I forgot to make my marks. It's okay, because my story stick fits at the top of the wood. So this is my tenon. This is my shaker inspired bead and co. So I make a mark there, there and there. I know that's my bead and co. So this is all my tenon here. So that is all waste wood, which I need to get rid of. So I'm going to peel cut it. Except I'm going to peel cut it, and I'm going to kind of taper it, and you'll see why here in just a second. That seat around? Okay. So this is spindle number 1. It's going to go into hole number 1. I'm going to put it in there and go like that. And then it makes a shiny mark. The shiny mark is the perfect fit. It can be slightly tapered because when it gets all the way through, it's going to get wedged. So you can have a little bit of space there because that wedge is going to push that wood out. So, anyone else need to see this? Okay. So this is the part that takes just a little bit of time. You want to take the time to do this right and get a good fit. Because if the fit is too loose at the bottom, there's no real fixing that, except wrapping some brown paper, something to build it up is really all you can do. Or just turn a new one and just call that one practice. All right, so there's my shiny marks. I can see it. I don't know if you guys can. So my shiny marks, I'm just going to start going straight. I don't want to take off too much. So I can see it's slightly tapered. All right, so now, so from this line to this line is a V cut, half of a V cut. So it's a shearing cut with the skew. The skew pivots. It pivots into the wood. It goes up and pivot. If you do that and you keep your cutting edge away and you only cut with the point, you'll be successful. If you don't, you'll know, because it will catch. And it'll be a big catch. And that's it. You just have a catch. Go back at it. You didn't get hurt. If you got hurt, you're probably leaning in without any type of safety gear whatsoever. All right. Again, I take my time on this so I can get it right. I don't want to rush it. So I can see where it was tight against the wood. Can take it down just a little bit. I can nervously take it down just a little bit more. We'll see. All right. That is just a hair too tight, which is right where I want it. So I'm just going to take a tiniest little bit off. This is where you learn to use your skew and make just little tiny cuts. It's just a planing cut. That's all it is. Don't tip it that way and it won't go that way. It's that easy, but you have to practice with this tool. This tool's fairly unforgiving if you don't use it right. And speaking of that, if I do get a catch, it's a real thing. I'm not trying to show you a catch. I screwed up, and I'll tell you what I did wrong. And if you know what you did wrong, then you have power over the tool. So this is just getting rid of some material so I can roll that half bead, which I can't even see. There we go. Now, clean it up and go in one more time. A little bit of chatter, what I have to do is really have a light touch on the wood so that I don't push into the wood. That'll just create more chatter. So I clean that up so it's nice and smooth, and now I need a cove right here. So this is not the proper tool for a cove. Spindle gouge is. So the spindle gouge, if the flute is at 90 to the wood, it'll stay right there. If it's this way, it'll skate that way. If it's rotated where the flute is going down, it'll skate that way. It's that simple. So if you get a skate, well, whatever way it went, that was your angle. So I may get a skate because I tend to rush on these coves. To be quite honest, I can't really see. That's all right. So what I want is just a nice, even cove, and I kind of balance it at 3/4-ish. That's how deep I go. I look at that and I go, yeah, that's about that deep. But I want it clean. The skip is going to look at it and complain it isn't clean. All right, so now that little bit, I need to just turn over into a bead. So get rid of some of the waste. And from the top, start turning it down and then follow it down. That little nubbin right there is best got with this. Let's take a look at it. All right, it's got a little bit of ripple from chatter, so I'm going to attempt to get rid of that. And the way to get rid of that is just a super light cut. Let's see if that worked. Sometimes that'll work. If you start getting ribbing, try a really light cut. If that doesn't work, switch to 120, and that will work. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I need this to go to here in a straight line. So the easiest way that I found to do that is this. I come in long, coming down, and I'm just going to push it out. I don't know if you can see it on that thing. We switch to that or where we're at. This is the opposite of this. So when I'm here, can you see where I'm at? I don't know if the camera's on it. If I allow the cut on up on the tool where it goes up to the top, it's going to catch. So don't do that. Watch your cut. Don't stare at it, but look at it and know where it's cutting. You want to be halfway down or more. It's the same here. This cut I found tends to give me less ribbing. And I'm not real sure the physics why. All I know is it does. For roughing it out. Because sometimes if I rough it out with the long point up, I'll get some real heavy ribbing. I do like to follow it up though with a nice little cleaning cut, as long as I don't get too much of that side. I really want to focus on the weight of my tool being on the tool rest itself and not on the wood. So I'm trying to really focus on the horizon of my wood so I get a nice clean cut all the way to the bottom. And then, again, try to see and just pivot into the wood. So a little bit of ribbing. Number one. Okay. This next one, strangely or not, is exactly the same. But I'll try to do it faster or slower. If you have any questions whatsoever, please ask. The reason I'm doing 3 of them is this is a 3-leg stool. So it requires me to turn 3 legs. I'm going to raise my tool rest just a hair and see if that helps. See if I can come in over the top. My goal on this one is to not have that little bit of ribbing. You can see that little bit of ribbing in there. So my goal is not to have that. Let's see if I can do it. Because I don't know. I mean, I raise my tool rest. Let's see if that helps. I may reduce speed and see if that helps. So I'll reduce 150 RPM. So I'm down to 2,700. Anchor, double. You push too hard here, all that's going to do is spin and tear off a little bit of wood down there. No, don't push too hard. So this I got from the lumber yard in Vancouver called Sherway Lumber, and they carried an 8-quarter, it's a 2-inch thick, and some of it is just beautiful. You get that olive. Sometimes it's got the real dark color that models through it. And it really makes a nice, nice chair leg. So kind of an nasty cut. I'm okay with. On the big tool, make sure it's the big one. I skew over for a peel cut. Make sure not to hit my skew, which I didn't, by the way, came close. If you do, always bring a spare. I did, because I don't have a grinder handy. And I'm going to do it in the correct sequence this time. I'm going to mark it. In case you're wondering how big the tenon is, 1.5 inches long. So this being 1.25 inches here, comes down to about 1 inch on the edge, which gives me about 1.125 to 1 inch, a little bit more there. That way I don't have a huge amount of tenon to cut off when it comes time to do that. All right, so now back to this. And peel cut. An angle. See where I'm at. This is number 2. I'm going to write number 2 on the bottom. And put it back on. Now I know the size. Is anyone actually going to make one of these? Go home and make one? Sweet. You got kids? You ain't old enough for grandkids.
We're grandkids are next. Kids are in the mid-30s.
Well, the grandkids are going to be in like Niagara Falls or something, right?
Yep.
No. Mine happened to be here. So I'm spinning out some stools, and it's fun. When the kids are using them, it's fun. So, all right. So I know my diameter here. So it's just a matter of pushing this short point into it. Getting a little bit worried that I'm going too deep. All right. Let's check it again. It's really not worth getting in a rush. Just to have to turn another, yeah, that's good back right there. Okay. Any fellow spindle turners? Where you mainly turn spindles? Steve? Yeah? Sweet. I find spindle turning more fun. Because I look at that, yeah, all right. Dude, that's like some serious stuff that I wish I could do. Because that's beautiful. But my focus has mainly been spindles. And so that's kind of where I've been. And that's what I've learned to use. My skew. And someday I'm going to make something like that. All right, so now pivot, keep the cutting edge away, and you just pivot into the work, pivot and up, pivot and up. All right, so here, get rid of some waste so I can turn my bead. Get rid of some. It up. One more. This is where I have to cut. Sometimes it doesn't have a problem. In this case, it did. Now I got to clean up this. Once it's clean, I ain't coming back to it. Now, pro equals a spindle down. I use Sorby. I like Sorby steel. That is called introducing your flute at an angle. Okay. What you want to do, go back now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to erase all evidence of that. And especially if it's being recorded, you would not know. So again, looking here for the side of the bottom of the toe. All right. You don't believe me, do you? You're not going to know. And that's part of the beauty. You can hide in the space. It's not, this bead isn't flowing yet. There we go. All right, it's a little bit choppy on top. So I just need to cut that down. There we go. What catch? All right. Okay, so we'll move this over here. Because I know I've got enough, your eyeball can't tell the difference between that diameter. If it's a 16th skinnier, you're not going to be able to tell when they're 8 inches apart, unless you're an engineer. I know, but I'm going to ask you which one was the mistake one. And you'll reply number 2 because you remembered that. I know. That's all right. But at the end of the day, I know why it happened. And that's the having power over it. By knowing why it happened, I can avoid it in the future unless I get in a rush again, in which case it'll happen. Happens to everybody. This is my cleaning cut. I'll slow down my cut. See if I can get rid of those little ripples. I'm getting nice little shavings. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. They're really nice. Just tiny little shavings. And then pivot off the tool rest. The fulcrum. There's a little tiny bit there, but I think it's a little better than that other one was. Let me test with this thing again. Good. All right. Just in case you missed the last 2, I'm going to turn one more.
Third time the charm.
Third time is a charm. Exactly right. So when you put the spindle stuff, you can try to airball it like that, or you can put your heel of your hand on the tool rest, use your thumb and fingers, and just guide it right in. I find that to be a lot easier. I kind of like the sun going down thing, because I can actually see now. All right. I can rough this with the spindle gouge or the skew. You want to see a roughing with the skew?
Sure. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, it's not as fast. So that's why the spindle roughing gouge is the better tool for roughing a spindle. As a matter of fact, that's the name of it. So here, the fastest way is probably the heel cut. Of a whole bunch of heel cuts, all I'm doing is I'm just taking off here. Can I ask you? Do a little bit square here. But it does make it cleaner. So there's just a tiny bit of bandsaw right there. But I need to move over to get this. So here, I'm actually anchoring and pushing because I'm putting a lot of effort into this. A lot easier to use a spindle roughing gouge, but this is a lot more fun. So let's see, I'm pulling with my left hand, and I've got this whole thing just locked in. And it's very smooth, but it's a waste of smoothness because I got to take it away to get down to my final diameter. But since I'm here with the big one, There's 7/8. I think I can do the whole thing with the skew except for that cove. I can't do coves yet. It's possible. Look on YouTube. There's some dude out of England and he can turn coves with the skew. I tried it. It works until you pivot it 1/2 of 1/1,000,000th of a degree wrong. And then it goes ping and it comes out and it tears out a big chunk. But you can do it. It's just amazing. It cuts all the way down to the bottom. Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, this guy is flat amazing with the skew. So, all right. It's easier just to use a spindle gouge. Way easier. Okay, so here I am again. I am going to mark my areas, tenon, bead, cove. Even spindle turning, I use this because I don't like stuff on my face. That's why. Because it does kick up and hit me in the face. So the interesting part about the larger skew, I'm kind of curious if I'm going to be able to get in on this little bead as deep as I go with it. So we're going to find out. So go like this and see where we're at. Did I mention I bought a Powermatic at the AEW? Actually, right after Nick Cook. And I finally decided on Monday. Symposium was over Sunday. Rick decides Monday is a great day to buy a Powermatic. So I sent an email to Nick Cook and he told me there's somewhere between Portland and Tennessee. And because I was hoping they were still there, I knew Nick had told me there's 2 that didn't sell. And so about 5 minutes later, a dude named Doug, who's apparently a heavy Powermatic, calls me. Says, I heard you want a Powermatic. So, well, yeah, I do. And he said, I'll make you a deal that you will not see again. So 20% instead of the 25%, but he threw in shipping. So next, whatever the 11th is, Tuesday or whatever that is, Powermatic's being dropped off in my garage. Now I'm going to hurt my back probably because they're heavy. All right. Okay, I got off on a tangent there because I'm very excited. Let's get this down here. I want to get this nice and straight because this shoulder, I found if it's at 1/8 inch, at 15 degrees, that shoulder rests kind of nice against the bottom. I don't want a gap. I want it to rest a little on the shoulder. So that's why that gap, this little shoulder is only 1/8 inch. So you just get it before under the wood. All right, let's see. See if that fits or if I went too far. Go too far, grab a little piece of grocery bag, got a little strip. Little strip goes around there and it slides right in. It's nice and tight when you glue it in. All right, the last cut. Maybe. Just nice. It fits right. It doesn't fit right. Nobody's happy. The kid's not happy because his leg is flopping around on the stool. And it's breaking. And then they come back, they want it under warranty, and it's like, it's a gift. So it's easier. Do it right the first time. I guess my dad was right. He used to tell me when I get lazy. All right. That, perfect. I'm just gonna trust him. All right. Let's get rid of from that. From wood here, let's turn half a D. So we always do skew. Clean up. A little bit of wood down there. Now let's clean this up. This is smooth. The right tool for the job. Let's be careful, Rick. Let's introduce this at, let's just say 90 degrees. So to make that little scoring mark, the chances of that wood ripping up, you see how it's ripping up? If I make that scoring mark on both sides and then start scooping out my wood, it doesn't rip up past here. And a rip on your under the shoulder there is really hard to hide. Because then you really got to reduce diameter to get rid of it. Or if I color it in, some black dye and pretend that it was like an inclusion. But it wasn't. It was just you being lazy. So that's why I go back and forth. Which leads to opportunities at a stake. But if I introduce it at 90 degrees, I will not have a stake. All right. So there's managed to do it right. I wish I could say I tried to do that last one, to demonstrate, but I didn't. I screwed it up. All right, so now we're going to see if I could roll this all the way down. All right, so we're going to start here, looking at the top of my bead, pushing it forward. Okay, there's so much mass, I can't, with that little ½ inch, I can get down deeper into there. So I got to come back with this. Just clean up that. Okay, now we put this away. Turn it off. Remove your tool rest while the wind's running. Bring a demo. All right, so I walk in, after rising, without I can aim for an even taper. All right. Notice how I move my feet because I want to be stable over here too. Because last time I was kind of wishing my left foot was a little farther, so I was getting a little off balance. So the solution is don't be off balance to start with. Know where you're going to end. If I'm going to end here, I need to be balanced here. And I can come over here. Try slowing down. See what that does. Doesn't mean I have to go slower. Let's see if it helps with that chatter. When you looked at those, did you notice that there's a little bit of chatter on there? Skip? Oh, come on, man. Even I noticed it. I'm not supposed to say anything about it. So if you turn slower, you have to move slower, but it does seem to reduce the chatter. So let that be a lesson. But I learned it by reading a book. So that's how I've learned a lot, is reading some of these old books. So when you pivot, you don't want to pivot too far. You pivot right into your drive center, which I have done. Okay, that ended up really nice. It was agonizingly slow, but it did end up nice. All right, so I just need my legs and I'll put this whole thing together here. So I have the time, and one of these has 2 written on it. There we go. One that has 2 written on it. It was pretty easy into that thing, but it's still not bad. I think once I wedge it, it'll be fine. So I take the tangential grain. That's this stuff. Radial, it's the sideways stuff. So the face grain. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. So face grain out. Just cause it's just easier for me in my mind that way. I just go face grain out. And then I want my end grain is here and here. 10 minutes. I'll be done. So I want the wedges to push against the end grain. So make a mark, make a mark, and make a mark. And from these marks, I will saw a curve. Sure. All I've done is mark where I'm going to curve. So here, no expense. This, which will allow me to hold the spindle. We'll clamp it. And then allow me to cut my curves. With this. It doesn't get any cheaper. I think I bought it at Home Depot. You don't need a super expensive one. A bandsaw is actually preferable, but I don't see a bandsaw around. So about that, all I'm going to do is cut a curve. If I go at a slight angle, a little bit easier. I have a bandsaw, it's even easier. I'm going to stop right about a 1/2 inch. There's one done. The other one is here. You kind of getting the idea? Easy stuff. This is to me, wood turning is a hobby. And so I like making things I can give away. And one time Bill Carroll, he doesn't remember, but I do. He had this plumb natural edge vessel like this big, and he gave it to me. Yeah, so it sits in a very prominent place in my home as a indication of what I would like to be able to do someday. And just one more. Last one. So how many people are going to make one of these?
Possibly.
Well, sweet. And the rest of you, why not? Oh, okay. All right. And, is it helpful to see one made?
Always.
Okay. All right.
Rick,
Yes, sir.
can you explain to them why you have the curved position perpendicular to the grain?
Yes. Why do I position the curve perpendicular to the grain? Because if you're going to split firewood, the best way to do it is split it into the grain. So if you're going to take your maul, you're going to hit it onto the end grain. It's going to split right down that grain. So that's why I wanted to push against the end grain. So that's why it's so strong. All right. The end grain is here. It's going to push against it there. Number 2, where are you at? Number 3. Oh. There we go. And here we are. All right, so these are pushed against the grain. I happen to have a small hammer, a leg that went flying, and I have 3 wedges. How am I on time, Roger? Okay. Oh, okay. All I have to do is put these wedges in, kind of. I don't want to put them in too tight because then you'll never get them out. So I won't. So against the grain, here's the trick. Put the leg straight up. Put the leg straight up and not putting your hands at some weird angle. Sure it's going against the end grain. And then when you pound on this, you can kind of hear it. When it hits where it ain't going no more and you're going to be in danger of splitting your seat, it's when it changes sound. So that's, in my former line of work, we called that a clue. Anyway, that's the stool. I think I finished on time.
That's job.
I did.
So,
Yes.
is it adaptable to largers?
Yes. Question, is it adaptable to larger stools? Yes. It's adaptable to chairs, larger stools. A larger stool, when you start getting legs that are 20+ inches, you want stretching. Yep, you're gonna want a stretcher. Yep. And a stretcher is very simple. You wedge it just like that to where it's just wedged. And then you figure out how far down from the seat you want your stretchers, so that way they're level.
Rungs, right?
What's that?
The rungs?
The rungs. Yeah, and I like the 3 rung, or the 2. On a 3-leg stool, I like 1 rung this way and then 1 that connects in the middle of the other rung. So it's a T in there. And that's super easy to do. Just have them that way. So they're sitting there kind of wedged. And you come down, say, 12 inches on each one, and that's your drill point. And then so you go from one drill point to the other with a large bit. So that way you're going at the right angle. No math involved. I'm not a math major like engineers. So I have to do things that are simple. If you use that stretcher, it is insanely strong. And you want to make that stretcher about 1/4 inch too long. So you're stretching those legs out just a little bit. They're in tension. So the tension is up here on the tenon. And it's always pushing against each other. That's what makes it so strong. Like a Windsor chair. That's why Windsor chairs are strong.
Each need to another.
Yes.
I have some cedar. Would you ever make it out of cedar or just split 2 weeks? You're talking tension. I can see where.
Yeah, it's not a trillion pounds of tension. So soft, the question is, would I use cedar or a really soft wood? Answer is yes, it just needs to be a tad thicker. Yeah, you just need some beef.
2 or 3 inch.
Yeah. Just give it some beef. And then you'll figure out, hey, you know, that one that was 1 3/4 inches, kind of clunky, but it didn't split. Next one's 1.5 inches. Less clunky, still didn't split. Next one's 1 1/8 inches, it split. Right, so now you know.
Right, do you have a cheat sheet or something where we, like your story pole there? Where those parts are laid out?
I do, when I make a chair for a large stool, I do.
That we-
I put a little tiny V group. Depends on the height of your stool. And I can send you some.
Which you already.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can take a picture of that thing.
You guys have more questions? You talk to me.
Yeah, come on up. We got questions.
You got a question back over there. Okay.
All right, we're gonna get in one first. Oh, okay. They are in the last three.
Hey, doing good. It's all good. Good to see you again.
0, 6. 0, 8, 6, right?
Oh, no more than 5.
All right. 0, 8, 5.
There you go.
The guys are right afterward. 0, 8, 5.
For good work, what our schools was like. Part of the David, like to go bye. Then you can or we were excited. We just decided you want 3. 4. Right. One, two, three.